Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. It's February 11th, 2023. We're going to look at crude oil today. We'll look at WTI and we'll look at a bunch of energy names, especially we'll obviously look at XLE first, which is the ETF. But we're going to start with crude oil, WTI. This is your daily chart, and we've been talking about how we're in a range. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Definitely take a look at the pinned comment. A lot of extra detail for you. Past videos about crude oil, but also all other asset classes. We cover all of them on this channel, and also some important price action signals. One of the most important is a swing low. Swing low is how a uptrend begins. So we got our swing low on Monday, February 6th, so this past week. And this past week, the S&P has been going down. Broader markets have been going down, and clearly oil has been going up. So it's been outperforming the markets the last week. That's also a signal too, which is interesting. So in the context of the daily cycle, which again, you can get up to speed in that pinned comment, this was day 29, right? So let's just see here. Right, that was day 29, and that would make this day 39. So it would appear we have a daily cycle low on day 39. So that means we had a rally for 29 days and then a decline for 10. Although in reality, right, like this was a pretty sharp move down, and we spent all this time just recovering these gains that we already had. So it wasn't really a 29-day rally in spirit. And so this would be day 1, 2, 3, 4. So it was day 4. Day 5 will be Monday. So we're relatively early in a new daily cycle. And so you can see that was another daily cycle that started. That was another one. But more importantly, we've been in this range, and you can see there was a point where we were in this range. Like you can see this range here. It broke down, and now we're in a different range that's lower than this previous one. And so it has to prove itself, I should say crude oil specifically, and we've been talking about this on these videos, by getting above 83. It's really that simple. This area here, you can see multiple attempts without getting above there. And for Brent, that number is right around 88. It's the same pattern, just a different number, right? And I like Brent is going to be really doing the same thing as WTI for the most part. It's just different actual numbers, but you can see it made a higher swing low here too, higher lows here, and I believe same thing. So actually, that's the one thing I would say. Well, there you go, right? That's important. So Brent actually has 3 swing lows, one higher than the last. So you have this swing low back here, then another swing low. This is clearly higher than this one, and this is higher than that one. Whereas crude, this swing low actually undercut this one. So that's a little bit of a tell that Brent is a little bit stronger than crude here. That's your daily chart. And if you look at the weekly again, because we've been in this crazy sort of range on the daily, we've also been in this range on the weekly. And you can see it's just chopping back and forth, pretty kind of frustrating in a way. And again, that's your weekly chart. But most interestingly, on the monthly, we've gone green. But again, not to sound like a broken record, but that chop on the daily chart also shows up on the monthly. I mean, you can see these 3 consecutive monthly candles of doing nothing, just being inside the same range, and they close as dojis. But importantly, we're going from red to green right now. And that's because of the rally we just had this week. So that's crude. If we look at actual energy names, we'll start with XLE. Okay, so we'll start with XLE, and it is potentially right. So Friday would have been day 4. So similar count to oil itself. And I mean, this is, wow. So you can see that was your low, and then you have your revert on day 38 after a high on day 31, right? So we rallied for 31 days, had this short decline, and then this big move up forms your swing low. You have a little pullback, and that's the important thing here. Notice this pullback doesn't break below the low of this day, right? You have big green candles, little red candles. That's a big sign. And so same idea here. You really want to stay above this low here. And you can think about this same pattern for really all of these charts, right? It's going to be different levels, but it's the same pattern. That's your move, right? Like, so you can kind of keep kind of ratcheting up. And obviously your obvious target is getting back above this swing high here. So in this case for XLE, that's at 93 bucks, something like that. And on the weekly chart, it's the same kind of thing with oil, same kind of pattern as oil. I mean, look at this, just chop, right? Like this was a big red candle down, and now you have a big green candle up, but it didn't actually make a higher high. That's important. It it made a lower low, so it was almost a bullish outside candle, but didn't quite get there. But I suspect we complete that pattern next week. And that's your weekly chart. And you can see the monthly has just gone green. It's always important to know what level the monthly candle opens, because that tells you whether it's green or red. That's a big signal. It being green or red, it's about to turn green. So the trade is, the direction here is up. Now, obviously, it's possible that this is like you could see something, that's what stops are for, right? But like, you have to be aware of like the bearish scenario is this, something like that, and then that, right? So you have to be aware of that. Especially notice that the Dixie US dollar index has just formed a weekly cycle low. This week here was its the first week of its weekly cycle. I'll do a separate video about that, but that's important. I'll say that's actually a higher conviction trade, and not even for the long term, but that could give you some nice upside for the next several weeks. UUP calls would do well in that case, and so you could see a world where things take a dip here, but right now the direction is clearly up, and we're potentially relatively early in a new daily cycle. That's XLE. Let's look at XOP. We'll look at the ETFs first. So XOP, we talked about how that had been sort of underperforming. Notice it's really the same pattern. Big day up, a couple days of consolidation, doesn't break the low, and then another big day up. Wouldn't be surprised if we got some consolidation. Again, same pattern here. Didn't quite make it as an outside candle for the weekly. Almost got there. And then let's look at OIH. That's the strongest of the bunch. And we can see on the daily candle, the daily chart, yeah, it's basically the same pattern, day 4. But more importantly, look at the weekly, the way these candles have just been stacked next to each other for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Price just not coming out of that range, really. And you can see it's been staying above this, so right around 308. And we're here at 329. It just looks like this is something that wants to kind of explode. And of course, all-time highs are much, much higher for this thing. This is the oil services name, so things like Schlumberger and Halliburton. And what is it, right? On the monthly chart, yep, we're just going from red to green. Again, a really powerful signal here. So 372, the 370 area would be the next logical level for OIH. So that's a nice upside from here at 330. So another $40. It's like 12%, something like that. Okay, we're gonna look at individual names here. One of my favorites is VLO. That's Valero. It's a refiner, so it's not just making money off of oil itself, but I mean the refining process is really important. That's how you're able to use oil as gasoline. So topped out on day 32. I think this is day 38, right? 33. Yep. So we have our low on day 38, and again, you see. I hope you're seeing this, like, as you're watching more of this channel, you're starting to, like, it's a skill. Like, you start to be able to see this. Like, it's all the same pattern, right? You have a big day up that forms your swing low, and then you have 2 days of consolidation. In this case, these 2 days were more doji-like. Remember, when we looked at XLE, those 2 days were more filled with red. And so that's actually in some ways more bullish, right? Like, price just, like, sprung back up to where it opened after the decline. And then we have this other big day up. And that big day up also closes above the 10-day moving average, which is a signal that you look for to confirm the daily cycle. One of the signals, I should say, that the daily cycle low has happened. Like, you can draw the inclining trend line like that. We've clearly broken above it. And so this thing looks like it's going to make a shot back to 150, which is a new all-time high, which, again, which it can be scary. Like, oh, my God, it's the highest price it's ever been. But that's incredibly bullish because it means there aren't a bunch of bag holders waiting to sell. Like, oh my God, I've been trapped in this thing for years. I'm finally going to get my chance to get out. There aren't any. Like, there isn't overhead supply, as they say. And so you still got another $10 to get up to 150. And then from there, I mean, I don't want to say the sky's the limit, but like, what's the market cap on this thing? So the market cap is 54 billion. That's not like it's so enormous that it can't grow more. 2.9% dividend yield. I mean, let's see. What is the annual revenue? Just to get like a ballpark. So $176 billion in revenue last year. Or in 2020. Yeah, in 2022. So it's trading at, that's probably, I think that's fair, like, for, the type of company it is. But that just tells you that's interesting. I mean, let's see. What were the net income of 11 billion? So trading at like less than 5 times that. Okay. So this is actually one of my favorites of this kind of sector here specifically. So that's Valero. Let's look. What's the monthly chart look like? So the monthly chart hasn't quite gone green yet, but it's just about to. That's really bullish. And you can see again, it's an inside month from last month. We had talked about that on the previous video. If we go on to Exxon. So Exxon is making a new all-time high. So we've got a leader of the pack. But again, that can be scary, but it's only about day 4 of a new cycle. And look, Exxon really just refused to go down much at all, right? So you can actually count this as your low. And so that's day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So day 6. So it's ahead of everyone else, right? It refused to go much lower, made this big candle here, consolidated a little bit, and it's moved higher. And so that is, again, just kind of a big signal to you. And obviously, this is a big weight in the XLE. And so that's dragging that index up. And Chevron is the other big weight in that. Let's skip over to that real quick. And yeah, that was the day that it announced its $75 billion buyback, its dividend. So notice, just to be clear, Exxon is above its swing high. Everything else is still below its swing high. This is meaningfully below its swing high. This is Chevron again. What kind of gain would we need to get back up there? So we need, so not too bad, like 8.7, like almost 9%. But ironically, this is the day that it announced that great news, or maybe it was the day after, and we just kind of cascaded lower. And this, you could say, is definitely a bear flag looking thing. We've got to break above, call it like 174, right, to kind of really expect any kind of upside. So Exxon is the place to be, clearly, for like just if you're looking for integrated oil name in general. I mean, literally making all-time highs, which is kind of amazing with when oil is still in a trading range. What about Devon Energy? That had been underperforming. So put this on auto. So same pattern, day 4 of it as XLE, day 4 of a new daily cycle. And the weekly didn't quite go bullish outside, but got close. That upside level is 64.94. So actually still a little bit of upside to get back to that, to get up above that weekly high. Phillips 66, ooh, that's looking really bullish actually. Like this is much more. So you can see the way the other names consolidated, making lower lows, although like just slight lower lows. This thing actually has been making higher highs for the last 4 days. You notice that? This is a higher high. This is actually a higher high. It went red, but it refused to make a lower low, and it's just kept going. So that's interesting. What's the little dividend yield on this bad boy? Let's see. Ooh, 3.9%. It's about $50 billion market cap and $111 billion in revenue, $1.3 billion in net income. So obviously a lot less of $1.3 billion versus 11 for Valero. But this is a very bullish chart, though. We're not going to delve too far into fundamentals. And again, all the same pattern, did not quite make it as a bullish outside weekly candle, but still looking quite bullish. And the monthly chart is green for this one. So that's another kind of tell. The things that are already green are obviously kind of leading. Although obviously there's an argument to be said for catching something right as it turns. So it kind of goes both ways. But Phillips 66 is looking pretty bullish. I think those are all the names we've got. Oh, right. Let's just take a quick look at Schlumberger. Again, we talked about the fact that it's a big component of OIH, and you can see it made its low here on February 2nd. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, day 6. So this was looking kind of bearish right there because it took 5 days to get outside of this range. This big candle gives you a little bit more hope, but you really need to get above here, like above 57.5, 58, call it. And then you have really this monster of a candle, which is going to be tough to overcome, I believe. Or, I mean, it just, and that creates this candle on the weekly. So that is actually not looking so great. Halliburton. So potential swing low here on the weekly chart. We need to cross above 39.60 next week to make this a swing low on the weekly. So not as powerful. Like you can see the other weekly candles almost got to the high of the previous week. This not quite there. So that's actually kind of telling you something there, huh? And let's just finally look at Baker Hughes. Ooh, is that a new all-time high? No, it's not. It's a new local high. So it's a new high on the daily, but in this case, we've actually been rallying for a little bit, right? Let's see how long. 13 days. So this is actually a little bit further along in its daily cycle. So you're catching it a little bit later, but looking quite bullish. And how is this looking on the monthly? Yeah, so it's green on the monthly. Yeah, so this is actually really interesting because it's basically breaking out here. You would think that it's trying to make a beeline for around the 39 area. So Baker Hughes, BKR, that is really interesting. And that goes back a long time. Like that was like, and it's not a level. It's a zone really that has been important for a long time. So that could be where you get like sort of stop like a brick wall, but that gives you a nice sort of near term target. Maybe say, if you don't want to be greedy, 36 even, right? And then the top of the zone would be something like that. So we'll leave it at that. Baker Hughes, that's an interesting one. I'm gonna look a little bit more into this one. So thank you for watching.